What is up, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, day traders, cloud swing traders? Hope you guys are doing absolutely fantastic. We got Albert in the house. Good morning to you. We got Andy, Bill, Brian, Cheryl. Good morning to Cindy, Corey, Greg. You guys are piling in. We got Jay, Joe, JT, Kevin. Good morning to Lauren, Lou, Martina, Mike. Mike is Tim. All my people out YouTube land. Good morning to Clarice. All my lurkers in the background. That's okay. I still love you. Make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe button. Albert's already throwing some tickers out there. If you guys got tickers, let me know. We'll pull those up. We got to figure out the macros first. Got to kind of figure out the macros. Where are we at? Cheryl asked an absolutely beautiful question in Slack. How much of this run up that we had yesterday is like this is the bottom and we're just starting that next kind of push up higher, or we see all-time highs, or is this just dead cat bounce and we end up selling? Here's the answer. Here is as clear as I possibly could be on this, because it is a great question. I have no idea. No clue. No clue. I don't think anybody has an idea. What I will say is it's almost until, so this is our first move green after 1-2 big down days. Technically, this is still a negative day, still down. You could also verify that by probably checking your long-term accounts. Like there's still, like we're still selling off. I don't see us really stopping yet. So for right now, I would probably wait into the little bit more category of a dead cat bounce rather than a real market recovery. Cheryl says, I thought you might say this, but you might have some insights I want to look for. Yep. That's the second part of it. Until we see something, we don't know. Right. And I'll go through what I would be looking for. But if we're looking at the SPY, we have okay, little head and shoulders over here, right on the SPY. That's probably our neckline. We did have a balance, but yesterday was a retest gap, right? There was a lot of people in this thing short. We got a big massive gap down on almost a perfect storm of, I mean, between Buffett selling, between the Japanese yen, between Iran, between everything that came out. I think I'm missing three: interest rates, Fed, the jobs report. You just stack on whatever you want. But it was almost a perfect storm of like, wow, okay, where are we? There's so much uncertainty, which again, the market, if I was to invest into something, whether it's treasuries, whether it's a stock market, whether I'm buying real estate, whatever the case is, I want to know what my return is going to be. I want to know that if I put in X amount of dollars today, that it's not half half the value tomorrow. Right. So we don't know. We know we're relatively, we just hit all-time highs. We've been bullish. But now there's a lot starting to come to surface, which we knew about potential recession. We knew about, yes, if they lower interest rates, probably economy crashes. But now we're here to face the fire, and we have to look at this, go, okay, where's this, all this happening? So the first thing, I would take the charts away. Not even look at the charts. Start to just kind of understand where we are in the economy. We do have to continue to listen to the Fed. We do have to see more job reports come in. We do have to see more inflation reports, because ultimately, and we don't have any control. Obviously, well, we don't have control over any of it. But like, we don't. We as the U.S. we can't really control what if Iran is attacking or being attacked, or what the war in Israel is, or the Ukraine war is still going on. I think everyone forgot about that. Well, we can't control the macro situations. We don't know. There's always a chance of risk to any of that. It's just higher now. So if we do have any type of news coming out like ceasefire or something like that, the market will still love it. But anytime you're in the market, anytime you're invested, yes, you could be invested in something geopolitical happens, and okay, there's always the risk. The biggest risk I think that we're looking at right now is really the recessions, but then we also have Japan yen going crazy. Like they were up, I think they would drop 10%. I think they dropped what 12% yesterday or something like that, and then they're up 11% overnight. Like vicious bounces. That's just not a stable market, right? And that's affecting our markets well. So we have to see some news kind of the Japan market kind of calming down, see if they have Some answers there as well. So we do have to look a little bit more geopolitical for that. And then we have to see what our own numbers are. We have to see that the jobs numbers, like that was more of a blip, that we got the higher, like we want to start fading away from recession. So there's a lot of news that is kind of built into what the market is predicting. So that would be the first thing that I have to see, because even if we see some great technicals and we're seeing some kind of like, okay, crazy bounce, but then all of a sudden we get hit with another really bad jobs report, or we get hit with another bad high CPI, or uh, the Japanese yen just starts cr- cranking down again, and we go even lower there, or another war breaks out, or something else crazy happens. That could now change all of, is this the bottom or not conversation, right? So that we're so heavily based on both more or less macro news than even some of the micro news, because we're seeing some of the reports come out from the companies. The companies are still kind of reporting good numbers. We've seen that even last night with Palantir. I think Hims beat too. Um, so it's not really the micro situation. It's not really the independent what the company is doing, but how does all this affect? Like, yeah, AMD had a great quarter, but if we go into a recession, do we still have that great quarter? Are companies willing to buy, or do they have to tighten their budgets a little bit? Right. Same thing with Palantir. Do we lose some of those contracts that we have because they got to save some money somewhere? That's what we're kind of looking at. So, as much as I want to go technical, there's a lot of news built into this. And that makes it very difficult to say, is this the bottom, or give really, really good levels of like, okay, this is where we should balance. We got there. Let's go bullish. So that's number one. The second thing is, now we will go into the technicals, right? And this will be, I think we have some kind of wave one here too. I think we're in wave three, which would make sense that wave three is kind of fast, furious. Again, this is a big drop from the highs, but realistically, from the movement that we've had the last essentially 15 months, whatever it was, this is a small little blip in the map, and we showed that by going kind of to the monthly yesterday, right? So this is not a, like, this does not have to be the end. This is wave three. I don't know where this one ends. I do think we're in this wave three. I think we will get some kind of a bounce, probably at least one more pullback. And then I think if we have the opportunity and we got the news kind of clearing up a little bit, we get a little bit more certainty, then we have the chance, I think, to make the next move. I think we're just in such a right now state of, I don't know what's happening. Not only that, but we're in August, so we do have lighter volatility. It's easier for stocks to move, right? There's not as much tension in either direction, so you get kind of those bigger moves, and that seems a little bit more drastic. So I think honestly we probably have to get through that first rate cut. I think we have to see what happens if we get a 25-point basis hike or 50-point. Like we said Monday, we expect the Fed minions to kind of be out there trying to calm down the markets. They're not trying to really go off what we had Goolsby out probably 8:30 a.m. yesterday saying, listen, no, it's not that bad. We had another Fed speaker say, yeah, we're expecting the rate cuts, but it's not because of recession. Like, don't worry about recession. It's not a thing. We've also heard all of the inflation was temporary as well. So what the Fed says and then what it actually is could be two different stories. And now it's, do you believe them or not? So there's some aspects to the technical basis. Look for this 200. That would be an interesting spot. The problem with this 200 at this point is we did have that dead cat bounce, right? And some of that dead cat bounce even came from just even the overnight last night. That came from the Japanese Nike just absolutely skyrocketing, bouncing right back. And then we're like, oh, they're bouncing back. We could bounce back. And we got some of that push even just from that, right? So I don't know how much of a technical, but even when you kind of relate to the technicals, until we start breaking out of that last little VPOC, so somewhere probably about 531. Not saying that that's going to be like the real breakthrough spot, because we got a whole bunch of kind of resistance up here, got resistance there, got resistance here. So it's going to take us a lot to get back to the all-time highs, but that would be a good sign. Anything underneath that last VPOC, not great. Maybe and today for this purpose, I'm going to use probably this VPOC from yesterday. See if that holds 516.60. So if we could hold on to that support, great. There's a chance for some kind of bounce. If not, well, I think we probably come right back down to the lows of the day, 511.89. And then probably if that breaks, I'm looking at that 200 for maybe a little support. See if we get some there. But until that happens, even with this open, I would have loved to see us open somewhere above 521. Just get above that VPOC because that's going to be our next kind of resistance. The next one up again is 527, and we're hitting a lot of these numbers after hours and pre-market. Even as soon as the bell closed yesterday, the market jumped like 5 points. It's crazy. That's I mean, insane move. They just waited. They waited for that bell to ring, and then go, okay, we're good now. And then they talked it up a little bit. So I think right now we're sitting at more of a dead cat bounce. I don't have enough confirmation to say like this is kind of where we put our foot down and the market starts to rally. I don't really see any of the sentiment changing, not yet. And we're still up really, really high where we could still give back a lot and still be okay in a bullish direction. So I know it's a little bit complicated, but no idea how if it applies to the market. VP Kamala Harris just picked she wanted Tim Waltz. So she didn't go with the PA guy, huh? Okay. As our VP running mate. Probably won't affect the markets too much. Yeah. I don't think that's going to affect it as much. As long as she's the top of the ticket, I think she'll have a little bit more weight on. And it's again, it doesn't even matter if it's Harris or Trump. It's more of what the policies are that they stand for and what we know each party will kind of be pushing, which agenda a little bit. So it doesn't matter really who's on the ticket. It just how much does even that VP pick boost that ticket up to where it's more likely that that will win. Right. So yeah, that the individual pick probably doesn't matter. But whoever is the president, that will have definitely some effect on the market. Not the I don't think the macro market, maybe to some extent, but I think more individual sectors probably get affected. All right, but SPY kind of in no man's land at at open today. Unfortunately, we don't have too much to go on. Qs were near death yesterday. Opening below the 200, not great. Again, good news at least. It's not like we opened and just crashed. We did come in. We found some buyers. I don't know that. I'm not even 100% sold that they're buyers, although some of them were saying, "Hey, we need dips. That was a dip. Let's buy it." But rather, all the way back from July 11th and all the way through, there's opportunities for shorts to pile in. Then you have this big gap down. I think a lot of this was shorts taking some profit, which means probably if we could get a retest into like 560, 559, something like that, I think that's where shorts might kind of come in to put more protection on the table, which would free us up into like, all right, maybe we could get a bounce today. If we as long as we hang above, I'm looking for key support today, somewhere around 435.88 on the Qs. I think if we start to lose that, yes, we got that 200. We've already messed with that once. I think we probably could get through it again. And then we're probably looking for the lows of the day as the next real target or support to the downside. See if that could hold. If not, unfortunately, we probably roll into this 416. But for right now, we're hanging out, so we can't really make that call that we're definitely coming down today yet. We are pretty close to support. The next resistance, I mean, we have all types of resistance over here. I don't know how much weight I'd put on it, but the high of yesterday would probably be our next little resistance. Obviously, after hours, we skyrocketed past that. So maybe we could look like for a 446, 448.20 as the next resistance. And we probably need a couple days to chop around before we can really make a call of like, okay, this is starting to look interesting. Otherwise, this is in a longer term picture. This is a little bit of a dead cat bounce retest gap, and we're probably still staying on that bearish course for now. So I know it's not the easiest answer, but I hope that helps some. There's a lot of factors I think that could go into it. So it's not just a one. I need to see this one candle or this volume or something like that. All right, Jumia. Did they have earnings? Probably this morning, I guess. All right. Jumia with earnings this morning. Uh, what are some strategies protecting a diversified portfolio? Wait for VIX to go down, then buy some puts. You let me go through some companies. Remind me of that question is a good one, but let me go through some companies first, and then we'll get into that. JMIA. Obviously a miss. Yesterday was a retest gap, so even though it's green, it was a retest gap. We did, and even though it wasn't much, but we closed the day slightly below where we closed the day on Friday. We are into some kind of support. I'd probably look for Jumia as a little bit more of a fade higher. See if it wants to come down a little bit more. Again, there's still some kind of fear and panic in the market, but there's probably some shorts that did not sell yesterday. Or if there was some shorts piling in, they probably kind of did it right toward the end of the day. And we still have a little bit of a downtrend there. So I think this is probably a fade. Let's see if it comes down a little bit further. We might have already did that pre-market, but look for like 728 to hold. If that doesn't hold, I'm looking for like a 701. So somewhere around that range, you start getting very close to that 200 as well. But I think today probably on Jumia looks like to me it could fade. Let's see what else we got. Netflix, NFLX. Um, I don't even know what this line is. I don't know how I got that one on my chart. Netflix looks a lot like the rest of the market. So we're kind of in that limbo stage. Look for support on this one somewhere around 596.93. If if that starts to break, again, probably the low of yesterday, so 586.79. That's your next spot, but really I don't have a spot of support until 579.07. To the higher side, I've got really good resistance kind of coming in somewhere around 611.99. So right now we do still have a little bit more risk reward to a bull side, but I'd rather see Netflix fade, play around with that support a little bit, and then maybe we could try to get a bounce off of it. So we get Netflix up a little bit higher. Does look a little bit more like the rest of the market though. We got Tesla. Tessie, it did bounce off of a beautiful spot yesterday. So if I was to make a case like, okay, maybe that's the bottom of something, I still think this is probably wave three. So there's your one, two, three. Your high volume on this one is 184.57, and essentially we tried to get down there past it. Bulls rallied it right back. Of course, the rest of the market did it too. It was a retest gap. We're still below the 200. But look for some kind of support around 199. I think if you're trying to get in this one, because it has it has a lot of room lower. I think if we start breaking this 184, I wouldn't be surprised we see levels back to the 170s again. We still have some untested VPOCs all the way back at like this 145 zone, 146. So it's got a lot of room to the downside. But for right now, as long as it's still holding this 140, 184.16, so this would be one of those candles. If it breaks down, really yesterday's candle, look out. We have a decent amount of room to go. How bullish am I? I mean, again, risk to reward. If you think this stock is going to be 260 and continue higher in the future, well, then you're looking at your buy the dip opportunity. But I would probably need a little pullback. See, yeah, 199.38 wants to hold on Tesla if that can. I don't think we have too much room on Tesla to the higher side, so somewhere around 208.89. I don't expect at least just an absolute bullish day. So I think that would be my target. And you do have a couple moving averages, especially specifically the 200 in the way, where that could become a little bit tricky. So see if there's some chop on this one. To me, even though that's a big green candle, we're still in a downtrend. That was a retest candle. We did end the day lower than we closed on Friday. So the downtrend is still intact for me. And we might get some more weight to the short side. But see, I would probably only short if we could start breaking this 199.52 zone on Tessie. CrowdStrike, CRWD. So this one could be a little different. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know if we're there yet, but I had my price of like I really only want to start looking at CrowdStrike at somewhere around 187.09. We got close to it. We didn't quite get there. The bigger spot, somewhere around 154.74, would be an entertaining spot too to try to go long. Even though this company's come down a lot, it is still kind of pricey. A little bit doesn't mean you can't buy it. Doesn't mean you can't dollar cost average pyramid. This might be levels you might want to start pyramiding. But that was almost a bullish engulfing candle yesterday, so that's interesting. That's a little bit more again for capitulation though. I really like to see some volume come in. Yeah, we got the capitulation candle. I just didn't get the volume on it. So we're still, I think, in a downtrend. I think they still have some issues to get through. When I scrolled out here, where's that volume? Right here. So we're into that resistance now today at open. And if there was some bulls buying, this is a nice little gap up. So I think this one at least fades down. I don't know that we could get through this candle. Not today, maybe. I don't know. But I would look for probably targets on this one to like 221.58. And you're looking for probably 232. Not necessarily that you have to get in short at 232.09, but I don't really want to see this thing break 232.09 to the short side. But I think I'd be looking for a fade on this one to the downside. Just kind of stick with that trend and see. We have probably $8, something like that, $8, $9 to the downside. So that might be an interesting looking fade to me. Wendy says I'm loading up on what? On CrowdStrike? It's early. It's early. It's down a lot though. I'll give you that. It is down a lot, but they also have a on top of geopolitical, they got some crazy headwinds. Do I think the price probably higher in 10 years? I don't know. Maybe. A lot of times I'm a little bit more confident on it, but it's still pricey, so they're gonna have to grow into that valuation. Palantir, they absolutely crushed earnings. They there is a little negative to Palantir. Two negatives, one being charting. So they crushed earnings. They came in a cent higher than expectations on earnings per share. They also came in with an upside beat of 24.9 million. So fantastic earnings. They also raised guidance. It's exactly what we want to see. Everything looks great for Palantir. This morning, they think they put out like they filed to I forget what the document's called, but it allows them essentially to not today, but sometime in the future, it allows them to offer more shares, which means essentially they could dilute some of these shareholders, me being one of them. But they haven't actually diluted any shares. It would just as soon as that paperwork goes through, that would give them the opportunity in the future. Which is, I mean, again, they're going to be able to raise more money, which is fine, but also shareholders get kind of diluted from it. So not great. Watch this level that we're at now. So we're at a little bit of resistance. I think we're slightly above it though. So 27.13, that would be kind of the spot I want to see hold. We do have room all the way back up to 28.94. So we got some room on Palantir to kind of move a little bit higher too, providing that we can hold on to this little support. I don't know that I want to short this one today. Again, the earnings were good. The only real negative on it was kind of that the document that they filed this morning and how much that's going to weigh into it. We've gotten to this 29 before, even pre-market. I think on earnings we got kind of close up there. Yeah, we got to 28.84ish. So we've already gotten to that zone. Every time we get up there, we do get rejected. If we start to break on Palantir that, let's call it $29. If we start to break $29, we get some candles to hold. I think we do have a good shot to get to 35. So there's still some room to the higher side. The stock is not cheap at this price, and I own it. I'm not selling it. I'm not doing anything with it. It's not cheap at this price, but they're growing at like 30%. I think their U.S. contracts or commercial contracts were like up 47% or something. So they're growing. They have some good growth. Earnings look good. Everything looks good. If they come in and slap everybody with a dilution clause, that could be tough. But it does have some room up here. Watch that support. It's actually as long as we open here, you got some good support on this one, and we'll see what happens. We'll go to Uber, and I'll see YouTube gotten a lot too. Joe says not going to do it. Palantir, not gonna do what? We got Uber to the higher side. Gap up off our earnings. Earnings look pretty good. They beat 52% earnings per share. That's fantastic. We got a $131 million beat from actual revenue. That's fantastic. You are starting to come into a little resistance on this one up to about 63.54. So we got to watch that level. Uh, you have better risk to reward to the downside on this one than you do to the higher side. But to the downside, if you want to try to play this long, first spot I'd be looking to try to get in if we get a little sell off somewhere. I'm looking for about 61.24. If that starts to break, the next level down is 59, probably 11, and that would be a decent spot too. So kind of tied up a little bit. That is a very strong resistance that we're moving into. So unless you think we get up to like the 64 or break that, and I really need that to break to really increase that risk reward, it might be a little chop fest on Uber. SMCI has earnings today. Well, Palantir crushed it. Not that it's the same thing. AMD is a little bit closer to it. They crushed it. So all looks good. This is an interesting spot on SMCI where we're not at all-time highs. Probably a little bit frothy in terms of valuations. If we get earnings and they are fantastic, I think we have a little trouble getting past 876.96. So just make sure we're kind of pricing in those options like that you could get past that. I don't even know what percentage that is. It sounds like it's a pretty decent one. If they miss or coming in line, I got really not a lot holding me up from some of these levels. Couple few areas maybe, but I would love to see them pull back at open today, and I think that might be an interesting call by some calls for the because they do consistently beat. Here they actually kind of missed on revenue. There they beat. And then this one they did beat earnings per share as well. So I think it's an interesting one. We're not really at the highs. It's still got the AI in it. It's got, everything that was sexy about 2 weeks ago. Not a lot of room if they miss though. If pretty much those calls are going to go to worthless if they miss or even probably come in line, especially in this market. So we will see. But that is the opening bell. So everybody on YouTube land, make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe button. Unfortunately, I do have to disconnect, but you guys are absolutely fantastic, and we'll catch you guys.